All right, I'll call this meeting to order, and before we go to any of our business.
Yeah, I'd like to just take a minute to recognize the loss of a dedicated volunteer in Dummerston. Larry Lynch often worked behind the scenes at fires and rescue events, help those who were working the events. His passing will send ripples across the state and probably across the Northeast, as he was a very dedicated emergency management person. He spent years as emergency management director, and that was long before there was any pay or any stipend for doing the job. He cared deeply about educating children about fire safety, and you could always bring a smile to Larry's face if you asked him how the kids were doing sugaring. So he'll be missed by all that knew him and probably by some that didn't. So we lost a very dear friend and great volunteer.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks. So, we have minutes from the September 30th meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the September 30th meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I did note that the time for the public hearing isn't listed in there for the Fish Road reclassification.
Right, so it's going to be, we'll hold a site visit on Fish Road October 31st at 1 p.m. And then the public hearing will be held Wednesday, November 4th at the Community Center at 5 p.m. Okay. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have, moving on to bills for payment, we need to ratify warrant 7A, and then we have warrant 8. We have the payroll, which is warrant 8P, and Conservation Commission bill.
I'll move we ratify warrant 7A, warrant 8, warrant 8P, and Conservation Commission Fund number 4.
I'd second that.
Okay, any discussion? All right, it's a pretty small warrant this year, this time, only $16,000 or so dollars. And it's again, it's repairs, supplies for the highway, some gravel, the Windham County Sheriff's Department, and they did come in at 27 hours this past month, which is a big improvement. Green Mountain Power, and that's about it. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, we're going to have a presentation on the Vermont Alert System from Glenn Herrin and our Emergency Management Director, Don Hubbard. So, come up to the table.
Hello, my name is Glenn Herrin. I actually work under the radiological program in Brattleboro. But I'm doing this as a kind of on the side, if you will, for the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security out of Florida. Vermont Alert, the presentation's in front of you, and I'll just kind of talk to it briefly. If you want to consult the slide, there's some details in there, but mainly we'll just talk. What it is a notification system, and it's intended to use to notify either the general public or a set of people that you set up a list of. So it can be like a distro list. It's intended for towns to be able to use, as well as the state and other response organizations. So like your fire company could use it if they wanted to on their own. But we really encourage towns to be the lowest level. There's two general strategies that it uses. The targeted messages one is kind of the easiest to understand, so we described that first. But the public broadcast is the more powerful one. The targeted messages are essentially like an email distribution list, where you have a list of people that you know, but it's not just email. It's email, phone, text, fax, mobile phone, pretty much. You can even send messages like the Xbox systems, whatever people put in there as their system. But again, for that, for a targeted message, you need to have the list of the people that you're going to send the message to. The more powerful system is the broadcast one, which you can use to go out to the general public, and that includes people who are not signed up for the system. So we encourage people, Vermonters, to sign up for the system, but they don't actually have to if it's a life-threatening emergency. The targeted notification one is typically phone, text, or email, and you might, for example, have like a town employee distro or a town employee and a committee volunteer group like that, where you would send out a message periodically about, hey, this kind of meeting is coming up, we need to get ready for this. Potentially, you could use it for something like warning meetings, but that would get pretty complicated, so we don't really recommend that. And this really is intended for public safety stuff only. It's not, we're not trying to compete with like the school Blackboard Connect system or anything like that. So the more powerful one is the broadcast alert system. And what that lets you do is, for things like, if you had a traffic work that you were going to be doing on the East-West Road here, for example, and you wanted to send out a notice about that ahead of time, you can send that out to people like the day before using all the normal methods, email, text, phone, and people have the choice to opt in or out to those kind of messages. So you can send that out, and then depending on what the people have signed up for, they'll get it at midnight or the next morning at 6, or they'll get it by email or phone or whatever they send out. But you also have on the life safety side, you have at the town level, you'll have the capability to call through the E911 database, all of the landlines in town. And then through the state, we can activate any mobile towers that work in this area, and the TV and radio systems through the emergency alert system. So we can make your radio go, beep, this is a message of the emergency alert system. And so all of these capabilities you actually are available now, but the way that you would have to get them is to call somebody from the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. So you would call the watch officer and say, hey, there's something big going on in Dummerston, we want you to send a message out to the entire town of Dummerston, and we can do that now. What we're talking about, or what I'm talking about here, is the ability for you to say, like to Dawn or somebody, Dawn, you're our notifier, we want you to be able to do this for the town of Dummerston. And you guys would select the people who have that capability. The state just gives that power to whoever you choose. And I'll talk about that process in a little bit. But that's the issue, is do you as a town want to have the ability to notify the town of Dummerston folks you send? When you do alert areas, at the bottom of the slide, or page 3 there, you can do the entire town, or you can pick points and you can draw circles, squares, any kind of geometry you want. So for example, if you wanted to do something along the Connecticut River, and maybe another one around the West River, is it Rock River? Anyway, you can pick areas that you want and draw out the geometry ahead of time. So it doesn't just have to be the whole town. You can do things along like the Route 5 corridor, the Route 30 corridor, anywhere that, around the Covered Bridge, around the Iron Bridge, anywhere that you've got a problem, you can notify the people in that area. And you can even do it on the fly. For example, there was a prisoner that escaped in Brattleboro a while ago. Brattleboro did not do this, but they could have just gone and put a point where he escaped and drawn a half-mile circle and sent a phone message to everybody in the area saying, hey, we just had a prisoner escape, please be on the lookout for somebody in our camp or running around. So that's the kind of capability that this gives you. There's a whole bunch of systems that it can use for all the way from phone calls and texting to emails to the emergency alert system. This is part of the federal integrated public alert and warning system, IPAWS, which replaced the old emergency alert system, which replaced the old emergency broadcast system, which replaced the old civil defense warning, and I'm sure there was something before that. But it's all kind of the same national system. So if President Obama pushes the button to send out a message using the national system, it will come down through Vermont Alert in Vermont and go to the same system. It's very reliable. It is completely free for towns. I can't remember exactly how much it is for the state. I think it's on the order of $78,000. It's less than $100,000 for the state to use. So we make it available to towns for free because it's not worth the accounting cost of trying to cover it. If you choose to accept it as a town, to adopt it as a town, we've already done the introductory meetings, so you as a body would decide that you want to adopt it, and you would make an official motion and do so. Then you would send us a memo saying that you've done that, and naming the first set of people that you want to have as your notifiers. That's the people who are the administrators who can actually send the messages. Not everybody can send the messages. And then we would just set up a training. It's about a 2-hour training with whoever your notifier is, and then they are trained. Once somebody is trained, they can train other notifiers, or you can always coordinate with me to come back and do the training to freshen it up. And then basically you're done at that point. It's once a town decides to do this, it usually takes, or it can take as little as about a week to get all the pieces in place to get it to you. Although again, you have the capability now, you just have to reach up to the state to get it. What we're talking about is getting you the ability locally to do it. I don't do a demonstration, or I won't do one now because that would really screw up the meeting. But actually doing it just requires internet access. You can do it on a smartphone, although it's kind of hard to pick all the options, so it's better with like a laptop or something. But all the notifier would have to do, so assuming it's Dawn would just log on, and she would go through and say, okay, here's there's a structure fire, it's really big, it's leaking chemicals, we want this area to be notified, here's the message that we want to send out to evacuate or stay in the area, whatever the message is you want to go out. And then she checks and says, okay, I'm expecting this to go to 100 people, it's going to 1,000. Oh, that's not right. And goes back and corrects it to whatever it is that you actually want to go out. And then she publishes it, and about a minute later, it goes out. So it's it takes about 5 minutes, or it can take about 5 minutes. And again, if you already know, like you have some river corridors where, areas that flood consistently, you can template those out ahead of time, so you have a pre-designated map already where the rock river is flooding. Whoop, you bring up that template and send it out. I went through for Dummerston right now. There are 239 people who are signed up to get messages about Dummerston. Now that I don't know if that excites you or disappoints you, but don't get too wrapped around that number, because that actually includes a lot of people who like news outlets and people who are interested in getting emails about anything in Vermont. So there's probably 50 to 60 of those are the wire services and the Brattleboro Reformer and stuff like that. But there are 123 people who signed up to get phone messages. That's more likely residents, and 131 who want text messages. So again, so you probably got about 120 residents who are already signed up for the system. And again, the power of the system is that so that's people who are signed up. But if there's an emergency right now, like Yankee, something horrible happens to Vermont Yankee right now, and you want to get a message to everybody in town, you can also get an additional 1,051 landlines here in Dummerston to send a life-threatening emergency message with instructions. So while we encourage people to sign up, because that lets them choose what kind of things they want to get, if it's a real life-threatening emergency, you can get all the landlines. And actually, you can also, through that mobile capability, if you contact the state, we can send a message through the mobile tower to any mobile phone that's in the area. So that's, if we have people here for leaf peeping that are, haven't even heard of the model alert, they would get it that way as well. So we don't, at the moment, we're not getting the mobile capability to towns, but we're piloting it with Brattleboro, and I think in the near future we'll decide to do it. We're just a little nervous about that, because when you start sending text messages using the mobile towers, people get a little excited. If it's a real emergency, not a problem, but we don't want people accidentally sending
Doing
anything that
you don't want them to block sender or another.
right. So that's that, and then I think at that point I will just leave it up to your questions. I'm the low person on the totem pole here. Rob Schnell, who's the deputy director now for Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, is the actual lead for Vermont Alert in the state, and Randy Bronson, who works the northern half of the state, is the real lead for day-to-day business.
This isn't what the fire department's using? They're using something different than...
Isn't that a reverse 911? Is that in effect as far as sending out messages instead of route alerting? Is that the same thing as far as for VY?
Well, this is replacing from the state's perspective, this is replacing the code red system that Vermont Yankee has been providing.
Right.
And the difference here is that system, your local rep had to keep track of all the phone numbers in town.
Yeah.
This one gets automatically updated with by the phone company with phone numbers and actual geographic locations for each phone.
Yeah.
So it knows not just that it doesn't know what room the phone's in, but it knows that this phone is at this point. So when you draw that mile circle, it knows that somebody that's on Route 30 is not close to Route 5. It's a pretty good system. Did that answer your
Oh, yeah. There's, what, is there a disadvantage to this? Why wouldn't a town take advantage of it, I guess, besides maybe coming back later saying the funding's gone and you have to, but you can discontinue it then if.
The only from my perspective, the only reason I can think a town would not want it
Right.
is you just didn't want the hassle of appointing somebody as a notifier and taking a few hours to train them up. I mean, really, you don't have to use it. There's really not it's free.
Yeah.
There's a lot of capability and very little downside.
It doesn't seem like a downside, right?
Right.
So then the fire department would be part of this. Somebody on the fire department might even be a notifier.
Yeah.
Done worked with somebody, yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
It's up to you folks who you want to appoint. And right now, we don't put any limits. Most towns are doing 3 to maybe a high of like 7 notifiers. You probably want more than one, just so that person can go on vacation. But you don't necessarily need a ton. But yeah, absolutely. Emergency manager, fire, the county or the Windham County Sheriff has the capability. We don't give them all the town's stuff, but if you wanted to have them have that ability, you could just say, hey, we'd like to give the sheriff the ability to send alerts here. And we've talked about that with Keith Clark, but we haven't done it for any towns yet.
Well, that could be if the sheriff had somebody they were looking for in an area, yeah.
So how long has Vermont used this notification system?
It's about 2 years now, and we've been. I don't remember when the first town probably got it less than a year ago, but we've been rolling it out kind of steadily. We like every month we add 2 or 3, 4 more towns, and we're up to probably like 30 towns now. So about 10%, and then there's probably another 30 that are kind of in this process of meeting and talking about it.
I'm just thinking like the apple pie festival, tell people don't come to Dummerston Center unless they want an apple pie.
we do on that, which is a good one. We do so it's public safety only, or it's intended for public safety. But we do encourage you, like once or twice a year, to send out a blast notification for something that's like a test. And there's nothing. Typically, we would say at town meeting. Like in February, you might send, this is a test of the Dummerston Emergency Alert System using Vermont Alert. By the way,
Please come to town
this,
meeting.
and there's nothing that says you might want to do one in the spring and we'll do one in the fall for the Pie Fest. But it shouldn't be, hopefully obviously, it shouldn't be anything that's like advertising for anything
Right, yeah.
or no political message or stuff like that. No vote for Bernie or nothing.
So if a town does the targeted notifications, that list has to be updated on a regular basis.
Yes, there's one in town, I know, that's trying to maintain a list of all the residents that way, and that's a lot of work. What we usually recommend people do is that's something like your fire, it's the entire fire department, or it's your town employees or something like that. Typically, in my experience, most of the smaller towns and most of the larger ones that are they play with that a little bit, and then they say, it's nice, but I already got an email distribution list that I can send out, or I already have a phone tree that I can send out. So it's useful for that, but it's really the emergency broadcast system that's more useful from an emergency management standpoint. Yeah. Having said that, a lot of towns are finding very creative ways to use this, and that's good. So.
And are there any examples you have of towns where this has been used in an emergency?
Well, so Plainfield recently, was that 2 months ago, they had the big rains and flooding in Plainfield and Barry. And Plainfield had this, and that was one of the first things that their emergency manager did was, when the rivers started rising, he sent out a broadcast message to everyone, warning them to stay off the roads, watch the rivers. And we can't say that it saved any lives or
Right, but it was
protected
used.
property, but it was, yeah.
That
it
was my
used.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of towns, Montpelier and Brandenburg to some extent are using it for they have it available, but they're using it for non-emergency stuff like winter snow removal and things like that. And again, those are things that people sign up for and say, yes, I want the winter parking ban notices, or no, I don't want to be bothered with that kind of stuff.
So individuals would go to the website for Vermont Alert, and
Yes.
that's where they would sign up to get these.
Yes, sir. And they put in whatever contact information they want. So if they want to get landline phone, they can put that in. If they don't, they can just put in their mobile, or they can just put in their work, or they can put them all in. The one semi-annoying thing about this is that it's a notification system, so it's designed to get you to get a hold of you. So when we do like weekly tests in my office, my pager goes, my mobile phone goes, my home phone goes, my work phone goes. Everything goes off, and that's a little annoying on Wednesdays at 10. But the reality is, when if it's 2 in the morning or something like that, you want whatever's going to get a hold of you. So as a normal civilian user, you get some power over that. You say, yeah, I want my home phone and my mobile phone, but only call these during these hours. Don't wake me up in the middle of the night to tell me that there's going to be a snowstorm. You can control that.
You've had the presentation, right?
Yes,
Okay. What are your thoughts?
I think it's well worth it. My first thought was when we was doing the culvert replacement down by the covered bridge, would have been an ideal, there's your pinpoint, you could have drawn your radius and let all the neighbors know, here your road is gonna be closed, seek alternate routes right off the bat. I'm thinking if I lived down Rice Farm and came up, shoot, I forgot, go back down. The other thing, you've got Route 5, you've got the interstate, you've got the railroads. If you have a hazmat incident, you could instantly pinpoint, do a radius, let everybody know, like you were saying, hop off the cell towers. You've got somebody that's not even from the town, they can get notification as well, saying, there's an issue, you're gonna be detoured. Like you said, it doesn't cost us anything. When there's something, try it, and if it isn't something we want, we can always say no thanks and back out later.
Oh, I'm thinking like Sunday with the motorcycle accident, people couldn't go up Middle Road, you just blast out, don't use Middle Road.
Everybody here that had cell phones, no matter what state they were from, would have gotten that message
Yeah.
that the road was closed.
It sounds like a really good thing to be considering.
How do
I
you
would think the
get-
fire department might find it extremely useful too.
Oh, I think I don't think this, I think
How
it's
do you
good.
get numbers of people who are in the area from somewhere else?
You don't, for mobile phones, you don't, and again, right now that's kept at the state level, but eventually I would hope the town will get that. But you don't even get their number. As you are walking around with your mobile phone, the towers know which phone
Pinging
you're off
you,
of.
yeah.
And so it goes to the tower and broadcasts to everyone that's off that tower. So it doesn't care what carrier you use, what.
Because the tower's identifying you as in that tower service area.
Mhm.
And as you move to another area,
You're
and another tower.
connected to that
right,
tower with
exactly.
your mobile
So
phone.
they can blast you.
And that's why we're a little more leery about getting
Yeah.
into towns, but
Yeah.
again, I don't think there'll be an issue.
Mhm.
But even using it, like, if there was a spill on a railroad or something, even if you had to go to the state, it would certainly be,
Right. I
Good
mean,
way.
I would call the state and say, this is what's going on.
we need this area.
Right.
And the state can do it for the town, that's
We
what
can
you're
do that.
saying.
Yeah.
You can also, I don't know how useful this is, but that you can also include attachments to things that now, depending on the medium, you don't get an attachment over the phone, but with the smartphones, you can send when a text message goes out, you can include a link that lets people go and get the attachment. So for example, if you have a road that's out, you can include a detour, a little picture of a detour or something like that. That's up to whoever builds it to build the little picture and attach it.
Right, yeah.
But there's a lot to do.
So tonight, we could decide to use Vermont Alert, and then we would send a letter.
Dawn has it really doesn't, it's not, the format is not important, but you just send just a memo or letter or something like that that just says, that just says, the town of Dummerston adopts Vermont Alert. These are the first 2 or 3 people that are gonna be our notifiers. I think that's about it.
And then you'll set up training for them. Okay. All right.
I would make a motion, we adopt Vermont Alert.
I would second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're all on board here.
So our notifiers would obviously be Dawn, and I think we should maybe have somebody from the fire department.
I would like to see someone for the highway as well.
Yeah.
I was
And
thinking
maybe a select board member and someone from the town office.
That'd be,
Only so it gives us a variety of avenues.
yeah.
Mhm.
Unless Lee did it, and he could do the fire department and the.
Yeah.
No, you should have 2 different people.
Yeah, and if you need a laptop, of course, we don't even have internet up there,
Right.
so it's kind of, I'd have to come down here to do it anyways.
So that would be 5 notifiers that we'd wanna get schooled right off,
Right.
if they were agreeable to doing it, or.
Right. I wonder if the whole select board should get, because people come and go and,
That's a good point.
That's a lot of notifiers.
that we
but
would
then
at
we
least
would
get.
say, okay,
training.
yeah, we'll have the chair, but the chair could change in a couple months, and so,
You don't think so, Steve?
Really? Are you leaving town?
No. I'm just saying, we should have, backup,
It's your first town with 10.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, I think we should work through Dawn and
Okay.
figure this out.
Yeah, let's look. But I think the highway, fire department, and someone from the town office,
Yeah.
and of course yourself,
Right.
being the,
And
I
I
should
would
say
say as many select board members,
yourself, the fire department, the highway, the town.
That's cool.
and as many select board members as have time to participate,
Sure.
maybe that'd be the way to do it.
Yeah, well, there's free beer and hot. Okay, so we'll set up.
That was a great presentation, thank you.
Yeah,
So I have one question about the notifiers. So, is there any, protocol that you've found that works when you have more than one? Is there a main person to go through? I mean, it just seems like when you have 5 notifiers, who makes the call that yes, this is important enough, this is what this is to be used for?
That's something we'll discuss at the training, because you're exactly right, man. It's very important that you don't have 3 people sending out a message at the same time.
Exactly.
So typically, if it's like a fire, you use the incident command system, and the incident commander on the scene is the one who says, hey, I need a message about this. And then, if the fire guy's busy fighting the fire, then maybe he contacts Dawn or your road guy or something. So that the town would have to set up kind of a, just a list or hierarchy of who might send them out.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's mostly kind of common sense as far
Yeah.
as towns talk.
But
think
things
we
can
should
get
Like if you all
confusing
have-
in an
Yeah.
We
emergency
should work through
situation.
Dawn unless it's a
Yeah,
Yeah.
fire or a road
yeah.
extreme emergency,
Right.
Other than that, work through Dawn and.
Okay, but good to know that
But
that's
it's
part of the training.
But and it's good to be thinking about, because there's, it would be easy for like two different people to send out slightly different messages,
Yeah.
each thinking that somebody else was doing
That's
yours,
right.
you know, and that's not
Right.
good.
Okay, thanks.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Nice presentation, thank you. Thank you, Don.
Any questions from the public or them? No? Okay. Okay, so we have recognition of visitors or public comments, but we're going to be talking about East-West Road later on in the agenda. So, and Matt Mann had soccer practice or soccer coaching, so he'll be here shortly.
Pretty dark, yeah.
But maybe we could go on to the road foreman's report.
I didn't have much besides just any questions. As here more, I'd like to go into executive session at the end and just talk about the different applicants who applied for the job.
You wanna do that now or at the end of our meeting?
Or at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
that's it, or whenever works good for you.
Okay.
I actually wanted to report back, after I spoke with you, Lee, I spoke with Mark Pickering.
Yep.
About both, vehicles that are left on state property, for sale, what the state has to say about that, and also about the Johnson's Curb. Well, and by the way, I meant to thank you for getting the trash, cleaned up so promptly at the covered bridge,
Yep.
appreciate that. The state actually doesn't have a statute that addresses, people leaving vehicles on state land for
I'm
sale.
amazed.
And what he says is that, if they're street legal, if you will, if they're, license plate, inspected and all, the state really doesn't have anything to say about it unless they're in the way of plowing, for instance. But just talking with Gurudarm, I guess more recently, and the vehicle in question that I asked about has been moved, but you just raised the issue of, I guess there's a tractor trailer, I guess the bed,
Yeah.
up by the Rock River. Do you know who owns that land? Is that state land also?
Yes.
And it's been there for what, a little while now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what the state would have to say about that.
I believe that is the company working on the power line.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw one of their trucks there one day
Okay.
This
when I
has
was up
no
there.
markings on it, actually they're painted over any marking
Oh.
on the trailer itself.
Is it a flatbed or a box truck?
Box truck.
Oh, alright, that's not the one I was thinking of then.
And you
So-
said there's no truck, it's just the
No
trailer
truck.
part of it.
Just the trailer. No tractor.
So I'm going to be talking with Mark again anyway. I could just ask him what the state might have to say about that. We did talk. I actually went up on Saturday to Johnson's Curb to see what was there, and there was it looked like an overstuffed sofa, a chair that was turned upside down, and I think another piece of furniture. And I asked him about that, and he confirmed that it is indeed state property. The state pays to have that stuff removed, costs money. They're not happy about it, and I told him we talked about maybe putting up a camera, but I think maybe probably the first step would be to put up a sign, no dumping or that sort of thing, to at least put people on notice. There's actually a good place right there, right behind the highway sign. On Johnson's Curb, to at least let people know. He said he was going to check with his sign shop folks to see if they had something that would be appropriate, but they are concerned about the dumping up there. And we talked about how it's probably, folks, on the lower end of the economic spectrum that probably just don't have the means with which, the money with which to, dispose of some of these things properly. And I told him when we had the trash haulers out here, I actually asked the question, what has the experience been in other towns, that have adopted mandatory recycling? Are they seeing more, stuff thrown over the bank and left by the side of the road? And he said that they spend a lot of money, of course, just cleaning trash up along the, I guess it would be what the Route 30 and the Route, 5 corridors. I asked him if he's seen any increased amount of trash since, July 1. He said it was really kind of difficult to say.
I think we have up at the dumpsters, up here at recycling, there seems to be more car seats and everything else.
Yeah,
Getting
was it
left there.
Newfane's meeting I was watching the other night, and they're having an awful, I think it was Newfane, I was having trouble with dumping, and then I was watching a state legislative thing, and the state legislature thinks this is gonna be a problem.
So I think anyway, the first step at Johnson's Curve is a sign, and if that doesn't work, then we could talk about a camera, I suppose. Because I think they have one down in Brattleboro, don't they, at the recycling down by the high school? I think they've caught some people leaving some stuff illegally.
I know they have one up at Putney Fire Station, or I've heard they've have one
Yeah.
up there.
But he says they take it very seriously, and if they have tried to figure out who has left stuff there, and if they do figure it out, they'll have the state police involved.
So I, just, not that we would do this, but just to bring this up as an idea, there are towns where their town recycle area becomes a real social hub for a town, because it's also an exchange place. It's a place where people, I'm thinking about you saying, well, who is it that's leaving these things here, and are they people that don't have the means to dispose of it because that costs money? You sort of take care of two things with something that boosts the social interaction of a town when you make a place for more than just the recycle, but it's also a swap shop, it's a, whatever. And of course that, that's a bigger thing than we might want to consider, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, my wife is very involved in the Newfane Church Heritage Festival, and at the end of the weekend, there's all kinds of stuff that just has to go in the dumpster. Just people, and put out for a raffle, but nobody wants to buy a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They do have one of those down at,
Windham Selectboard.
Yeah, but I don't see that as a social.
Right.
I'm thinking, I have friends that used to live in Hubbard, Mass, and the they don't call it the dump, but the town, recycle center has a swap shop and a this, and it just has a number of different things, and on Saturdays it's a big social activity for people. And a lot of possessions get change hands.
Yeah.
So,
Wardsboro, I think, does something like
do they?
that.
Mhm.
Or they have I know it's open like on Saturday mornings, that type of thing.
If there are ways that we could make it easier for people to get rid of things that they no longer need or want, or are in a condition that, but a lot of it is actual trash that nobody's gonna want, so. But I don't wanna see it over the bank in the woods either,
Right.
Johnson's Curve is obvious, it's out there, but if you go on the back roads and look down the banks, you see plenty of that too. So it's not that that's the only place, it's just that that's visible. So I don't wanna see any of that, but it's an issue, for sure.
Thank you for following up on that.
Mhm.
And you're going to speak
Yeah,
with them again.
I'll speak with them again. I'll take a look at what's up there and see what they have to say about it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sure.
thanks. So, anything else you've got?
No, I'm just worried about the repair budget, because it is gonna be, gone, to say the least, with, trucks, just nothing maintenance issues, it's just things on the trucks are failing, that, emissions, filter. That truck's over there now because it died on Route 30 and we got it over there, but it has to be fixed now. So you're gonna see that bill, and you've been seeing the bills coming in from Twin State. I hope they slow down. I'll put it that way.
Yes, your slow season's coming up, right?
Exactly. I'm hoping to get the trucks back before then. Hoping.
So I see, international, under parts and repairs, I say international.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about it during budget season, and because the truck what we're trading in next year is an international, and I don't believe they're gonna give us as much money. So on the capital plan, we might have to bump it up a little because of the difference in trade. But I figured we'd get to talk about that a little more against time, but.
Any questions for me? No, okay. Let's see. Under correspondence for information, anything there you want to talk about?
Did we got an email, from somebody at the state who was collecting information from towns about the response or outcomes of the recycle, legislation?
It was a request from VLTC.
Oh, was
I
it?
think. Someone was going to be interviewed or something, and they
Okay.
wanted information from the towns on the effect of.
Right, did that get responded to?
I didn't respond
Neither did I.
because we don't have a town, program.
I see, okay, we've got a lot of different haulers and
Yes,
it's
independent
happening in
haulers.
kind of a,
Privately
Okay.
done, so
Okay,
I
that
didn't
makes sense.
think
okay,
they would be interested in our response.
okay.
Any other things? It was kind of slow at the Windham Humane Society. Only one stray cat from Dummerston was brought in this past month. Under unfinished business, we have, do we have any update on the personnel policy, the comp time?
Steve and I are doing research,
Okay.
and we're gonna put our information together, and do you think we'll be ready at the next meeting to make a recommendation?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we can put it on the agenda.
We're working on it.
Great.
Yeah, actually, we've touched base a couple times, and Geraldine's taking on some towns, and then at the VLCT meeting, I actually was able to talk to a lot of towns about how they handle it, and so I got a lot of information from there.
Uh-huh.
So we're working on it.
So you did go.
Yes, I did go, yeah.
Yeah. Great. Let's, we have the PACIF insurance renewal from VLCT that we need to renew or not, depending on what we.
It was in the packet last
Yeah.
meeting, but I didn't feel comfortable just sending it in on my own without a vote from the select board.
Right, and it was something, what was the percent increase, or the valuation?
The valuation went up 2.4%.
Yeah.
And what's this for, is he?
This is for the insurance that we have through VLCT for pretty much all the buildings.
Buildings,
equipment.
vehicles, equipment, workers' comp.
So,
And we had a much bigger increase last year, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yes,
right, and so
or
the,
2
what
years
they're
ago.
trying to do is increase it, well, given that they're going to increase it, they're trying to do it,
Gradually.
yeah, rather than, it was quite a jump the last time, and I guess there was reaction from the towns, so I don't think we'd want to go without insurance.
No.
But this seems to be the best, option for the town.
Yeah, I remember them presenting at the select board, introductory meeting that I went to and was pretty impressed by them and seemed like they're, you know, trying to give us the best deal possible in terms of insurance.
So could I have a motion to,
Yes, I will move
Okay.
that we approve the 2016 insurance renewal from VLCT.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now, what we've all been waiting for, the update on the town fair.
It was good. I had a good time. Maria did go too, and she, interestingly enough, we only met at one meeting. So, I guess the big thing that was discussed there was the stormwater runoff and stormwater runoff protection, which I'm sure Lee's going to be hearing a whole lot more about. Basically, we're going to have to start inventorying our roads and where we're getting ditch failures and runoff from the roads into streams. And basically, they're concentrating this year, of course, on Lake Champlain and up that area, but it's going to expand to the state probably within 2 years, I guess. Unfortunately, there's going to be some funding requirements that come along with this, which we'll want to talk about at budget time. That was good. The town fair vendors was pretty interesting. There was a couple things that I was able to testify at. The big thing is, and I talked to Lori and Lee about this, where trucks have to get individual permits from every town that they go into to run overweight on the roads. And VLCT has taken the position that the state should actually secure one permit for the entire state, and then I don't know how they're going to disperse the funds to the individual towns. The discussion was, my input basically was that somebody like myself has to get 7, 8, or 10 of these permits. In reality, I probably get 3, so they were concerned the towns weren't going to get the income, and my feeling is that they'll probably get more income, because if you only have one application and can list the towns you want to run in, then they would contact Lee via email, and he would have to approve. If there's been somebody that's a violator continually in the past or whatever, you could disapprove the permit. So that was actually a really good discussion, and so the league did vote to recommend to the state that they have one permit. The other thing was they discussed at length was a gas tax to help fund some of this work on roads. I guess I won't bore you too much with that, but I basically voted against the gas tax because I felt it was more regressive, and lower income people and rural communities are going to pay a bigger penalty because they have to travel to get to the grocery store and laundromat and things like that. So, but it did pass, and they are going to urge the legislature to have a gas tax to help fund the stormwater runoff plans. And their thought was that we get a lot of tourism, and so they would help by generating tax income to maintain the roads they got to run on. I guess other than that, not too much. It was pretty good. The league meeting was actually quite interesting, so I'm glad I went. It was well spent.
Steve, I hesitate to ask, but was that the meeting where they talked all about whether or not to modify their position on marijuana?
I was going to address that with you, and I said, heck with it. They did decide that the league is going to recommend to the state that they do not legalize marijuana. There was probably...
How do you vote on that one?
I voted yes, that I did not. I wanted them to tell the state not to legalize marijuana, and I actually discussed some of that as an employer. Sometimes it's hard to know if an employee is under the influence of marijuana. A little easier if they're under the influence of alcohol, but they are going to register. That was a lot of discussion. There was a gentleman there from, I want to say, the town of Rutland, who had a folder that thick on what Colorado has found and the research that's been done. And it was, he had a very interesting presentation which actually had to get cut short, because I think he could have gone on for an hour, but I did, for that reason, I did vote that, yes, we should recommend the state not legalize marijuana.
And that person who had the information from Colorado was presenting that information in support of recommending that we not legalize it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he actually was a league director. What they do is the different directors take on different segments of the meeting and changes that they're gonna make. And so the different directors take these on, and this was one that he particularly took on and did the research on. And actually, when I got all done, it was a very cantankerous discussion, I would say, but when we got all done, the vote was like 30 in favor and like 6 opposed. It wasn't even close when we got done, or 9 opposed. But. So anyway, it was good. Enjoyed it. I'm glad it went.
But there are some folks that are saying that they think that the legislature is going to, vote to legalize it. Some, I think, prominent people in state government have.
I think the government's pushing it.
But that's great that VLCT, polls the towns and gives town select board members a chance to talk about it together, and
Yeah,
it's
another
a good
time
process.
probably would be important if we all had these changes and could look at them before a representative goes. I mean, I had to vote
yeah,
Mhm.
based on your
in
own.
my discussion, and whenever I spoke and about different issues, I did address that I was speaking my own personal opinion.
Right.
But I still was voting for the town, so.
Mhm.
But I didn't have the deciding vote in anything either, so.
But still, that's.
I enjoyed it, I actually enjoyed it, I hope I can do it next year.
Thank you.
It was good.
Right, maybe we should, go ahead and put the information out that they're going to be talking about.
Yeah, we should, this must be available earlier.
I've never seen that before.
Oh, okay.
It was in your packet with all the proposed changes. That was with the
Right,
delegate
right.
form, and I
In
thought that you
another
had taken that
form.
with you
Yeah.
after the last meeting.
I got this when I got there,
Yeah, no, this is the big,
okay.
Yeah, there was a
the 8.5 by
large
11, with
packet.
the lines through it and the new verbiage in it.
Mhm.
I must have forgot to pick that up then.
Yes, maybe next year,
We should
pay
look
more
at that
attention
ahead.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, I actually really enjoyed it.
So, any Mann?
Matt Mann is hiding over here in the corner.
Good. I was hoping he was around. So, Mann, want to come up?
Hi, Matt.
So, do you know anyone here? Well, let's go around,
I'm Geraldine Wilson.
Steve Glabach.
Zeke Van,
Joe Cook?
Guru Dharam Khalsa.
and Dick Burkus behind you, East West Road resident, Lori Frechette, Lee Chamberlain, and our cameraman.
Is that Mr. Cameraman?
Rich,
So,
undesirable Rich.
we're interested in the traffic survey that was done, getting more information, and any recommendations you have for that stretch of East West Road.
Yeah, so I believe Sarah, and if you make more copies, had sent you this.
Right.
Does everyone have a copy of the?
Yes, we've
Um,
gotten it.
and I
It's
did-
someplace, yep.
We tend not to, but we can definitely forward on the raw data, which essentially is this, but it's per hour, based on, and broken out into various speed limits. And we do have classification, as well as volume. This is just the speed, data, which I can leave with you. But we do have it in PDF format as well, so that's something we can send on. So based on the request by the town to conduct a speed study on East-West Road, what we decided to do was to place it right at the, almost at the base of the hill there, for a number of reasons. The main one is that there's not a whole lot of other options for that straightaway, in terms of when tubes are put out, they need to have, cars need to hit them on a perpendicular angle the entire time. If the cars come out of a driveway or something like that, then that data is not going to be collected. It's going to show up on this raw data as 0 to 99 miles per hour. So that's kind of invalidates it. And then the more you get of those, then the whole data set is not valid. So ideally, you want to have a situation where it's not on a hill, where people are going to brake and the tubes are going to get tied up. It's essentially on a straightaway, but it's not close to any driveways. So that being said, and this corridor, essentially prior to the 30-mile-per-hour zone, east of it, was where the town essentially wanted that gathered, the data gathered. And as you can see, based on the average, the data shows that the average speed was around 33 miles an hour. The 85th percentile was 38. And so this is a 25-mile-per-hour zone. What I mean by the 85th percentile is that 85% or less of the cars are traveling are at 38 miles an hour. So 85% or less of the people feel comfortable enough on that stretch of road traveling at 38 miles an hour. And so based on that, what typically the state does is that they say, okay, well, that's speed limit's got to be 35 miles an hour there. Based on the 85th percentile, based on the quantitative assessment only, typically. But what we try to encourage is that's one variable, that's one reason to determine the speed limit on a stretch of road. The other ones include bicycle pedestrian activity, land use, the setbacks of any of the land use, if it's residential, how far the home setback, any crash data, and any other things any other activities that go, like a horse crossing, and anything that's really special or that's really that dictates that stretch of road in a manner other than cars. So based on all that information, there wasn't, I didn't see it, and couldn't find any crashes, any recent crashes at least, so that's good. The land use tends to be a little bit not as densely populated or densely as dense in compared to the village center. And then pedestrian and bike activity, I would put it out to you guys. And then obviously the people that live along that stretch, if that tends to be a fairly heavily trafficked or used for lunchtime walks, to people connecting Route 5 to Route 30 on a bike. So I don't know if you know, if you would know if that's used as much in the bicycle pedestrian realm or not, that stretch.
Well, compared to what? I mean,
just like on a daily basis, compared to nothing, just compared to on a daily basis,
well,
you see like
people riding bikes up and down the road.
Yep.
In the summertime, not in the winter.
Right.
People walking up and down the road in the summer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I would say
9 months of the year.
I'd say probably middle road's more popular, just 'cause
Yeah.
it's more gradual.
Right. Right. There is that hill. West.
So Matt, according to this,
Yeah.
that you're talking about, this shows the location. This is our house. This is the Murtha's. The tapes were actually put down on the flat past our house.
Okay.
On this map, you show it right at the base of the big hill.
Okay.
So that's incorrect.
Yep.
Okay. And it really doesn't reflect, if you lived on that road, you'd see that it doesn't reflect the actual speed of traffic on that road. What happens is where they put the tape, did you actually see where the location was?
I did. I mean, I didn't actually put out the counters. Sarah did.
I saw them.
But, yeah.
I talked to Sarah.
Yeah. Okay.
And in fact, I said, why can't you put it on up by the base of the hill or up closer to the hill?
Right.
And apparently there's maybe a 10% grade. What is that, about a 10 or 12% grade?
Going up the hill, yeah.
Yeah, before you get to the big hill. And you can't put tapes on a 10 or 12% grade? You can't?
Well, it's not preferred. Again, it's really, it's a situation where you're trying to get, you're trying to collect the data, as much data as you can in a valid manner. And so if there's a situation where there's any kind of incline, stop or start, any kind of person putting on the gas, that there's a chance that the tubes could get caught up in the
Right,
tires.
I see. Yeah, well, so unfortunately, I mean, observing traffic while the tapes were down, observing traffic while the speed cart has been placed down there, which has been very effective actually, except for the bikers motorcycles, who like to see how high they can get the number before they descend down the second hill. And, you know, there were people clocked at 50 going through there during the Pie Festival. But be that as it may, the change in elevation from the center to Salmon Brook is different from the middle road or the east-west road going to the bridge. After you get past, obviously, Black Mountain Road, the road becomes very steep all the way to the bridge. It's marked for 35. The middle road's marked for 35. For some reason, our road has always been 25, but the perception, I think, and I've said this before, and I contend that I think the perception is that it's 35 when you leave the center going east-west, east.
Mm-hmm.
And people come down off that curve, and after they descend the curve, the first curve,
Right.
they speed up until they get to where the 35-mile-an-hour sign is, and invariably they'll brake to descend to Salmon Brook. So what I think you picked up was people just braking before that descent, because it was very close to where Joan Bucktrick's house is, and that's exactly where the sign is.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that's an accurate reflection of how that road is being traveled. And if 85% of the people are traveling at 8 or 10 or 15 miles an hour above the speed limit, I mean, if you went up 91 and put down tapes, your average speed wouldn't be 65. Your average speed would be 70, 75, or 80, because people feel comfortable. The road is built for 80 miles an hour.
Right.
People travel. We all are guilty of traveling faster than the speed limit. And 5 or 10 miles an hour doesn't bother us. It's when people come down at 45 miles an hour, which is easy to do off of this hill.
Yeah.
And a 25-mile-an-hour zone is it borders on dangerous.
Yeah, right, and that's something where if looking at this is why the state actually just looks mostly at the quantitative analysis, is that if they think if 85% or less of the people are traveling 15 miles over the posted speed, then they're going to say, well, maybe the posted speed is set too low. Because then you're creating a situation, and this is you're creating a situation where if I'm driving 25 miles an hour, but there's a person behind me that feels like, well, I've been on this road a lot, and I feel comfortable driving 35 or 40. You know what? I'm going to pass you, and that creates a situation where it's not safe, and or you're tailgating someone as well because of someone really obeying the posted speed limit, while others feel very comfortable driving 10 miles over it. So there's kind of a balancing act where setting the posted speed or setting a speed limit on a road. That's why I kind of listed all those variables, is because I don't think it's just based on the 85th percentile. It's based on a number of other reasons. But I did email Zeke in terms of there is a pretty basic formula that, based on the raw data, which takes into consideration the 85th percentile and what's called the 10 mile per hour pace. And based on that information, then it provides you with a speed limit range of essentially what the speed limit should be based on the data you collected. And what I had said was, or what the formula had said was that it's basically between 26 and 32 miles per hour is what the posted speed limit should be. So the way I take that, based on the land use, based on the bike ped activity, then it should be closer to 30 miles per hour the posted speed limit. And that would be more in line with not only all the variables, but then also in line with having potentially a safer road so that you don't have anyone passing, you don't have, anyone tailgating. Now, there are other ways that you could actually slow people down as well. We had talked, I've talked to previous select boards in this town about line striping, fog line striping, edge line striping. That tends to kind of narrow up the road and define the road a little bit more. I don't think it's on East-West Road, is it?
Yep.
It is. There is the radar speed feedback signs, which a number of towns are already using now. And they are actually looking to have them placed on state highways that go through their town. Jamaica's looking at it, Londonderry's looking at it right now. I know Wilmington, downtown Wilmington has it, Brattleboro has it. And what those do is that it gives you that feedback. I don't know if all you guys are familiar with it, but it's a digital readout that a signboard that's right under the speed limit sign. So it kind of gives you that, oh wow, I'm actually traveling 15 miles over the speed limit or 10 miles over the speed limit, which I didn't know. And it's that instant kind of, and it also collects the data as well. So that's something that there has been studies done on that, and they are effective in slowing traffic down. I think the latest one is probably about 3 to 5 miles per hour, a reduction in the speed of 3 to 5 miles per hour. They can be kind of put around town, so you could actually put them up on this stretch of East-West Road for a week, put it on Middle Road for a week, put it on somewhere else for a week, wherever there's a need to actually get a sense as to what the speeds are, as well as trying to slow them down.
And I was going to ask, I don't think it's the sense of anybody here that people are driving too slow on the east-west road.
No.
But what has the experience been elsewhere when the speed limits have increased? I would expect that, people would drive faster. Is that fair to say?
I think, typically they don't, because they're driving the speed that is comfortable for them. On these roads, on 91, it's a different situation. But on the local roads, people that are traveling faster are very familiar with the road. And so so if you put it at a speed where it's a little bit more in what line with what they're driving, obviously taking into consideration the other variables, then they just keep on driving what they're driving. It's not like, oh, well, now it's 35, now I'm going to drive 45, but I'm not going to take that curve because I know that. I know that I can't take that curve at 45. I traveled this road, 1,000 times, and it's not going to happen. I mean, the other thing is enforcement, and I don't know what the contract that you guys have right now with the sheriff's department, but contracts with sheriff's department can be tailored. They can be tailored toward, okay, looking at this data, there's a lot, there's people that are the peak hours that we want you to focus on that road and sit out there is 7 to 9 a.m. on Tuesday. That can be in the contract, every Tuesday we want you there, or on Friday nights when they're, So it's something where you can approach it on many different angles. From line striping to enforcement to something in between with the radar speed feedback signs.
Well, may I just ask? One thing you didn't mention is the elevation change from the center to the Salmon Brook on this road. And so when you talk about this data, is that sort of assumed a level surface that people are traveling in? And as I said, I think that where those tapes were placed, and that's why when we originally asked for this, just to get a sense of how the road was being traveled, we asked for 2 sets of tapes. And then you said, well, we can't do it on the incline. Well, it's not a great incline, and people aren't braking in the area where we had suggested they be put. But be that as it may, I'm not sure that the thinking, I follow the thinking, having 85% of the people exceeding the speed limit, you have to be sure that they understand what the speed limit is. And if it's perceived to be 35 and they're going 45 or averaging 38 or whatever it is, it's in excess of the posted limit. And I don't think that the road is posted in a way that people really have that sense. Now, we've got the speed cart down there, and invariably people are abiding by that. I mean, with exceptions, but people get to the cart, they see their sign posted or their speed posted with a flashing light, and they slow down. And now the cart's getting people, I mean, it's got two sensors on there, because if people come up the hill, it's catching people, it's just giving people a sense, or everybody else who sees it, a sense of how fast they're going up the hill. And it's amazing. The speed of people going up the hill is between 35, 45 miles an hour. Because they're not confronted with that cart, but the cart is picking up the speed coming up the hill. So I think people are driving that road faster, but I think it's partly because they perceive it to be currently posted at 35. When the cart was put down here just recently, it had 35 on it. And I called Mark Anderson, I said, you know, it's posted out here at 35.
At 25.
And they came back and changed it, but I think it's just a mindset. And I think if people are going to exaggerate the speed, to raise the speed, that doesn't make any sense to me. They're going to drive it faster, they're going to drive it as fast as they can. If it's 30, they're going to go 40. Maybe that's okay, that's comfortable for them, but it's going to cause a problem, I think, with people using the road, and particularly in inclement weather, particularly because of the elevation changes. I think that just is backward thinking, but that's my opinion.
So so right now it is posted in both directions at 25.
Well, it's posted in the center, and when people leave the center, as they do on the middle road and as they do on the east-west road going to the bridge, it becomes 35.
But it's not posted again.
No, and that's
until it's 35. Closer to Sam Road.
It's only a quarter of a mile.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you go towards, it's posted down by Tom Johnson's, and it's posted up past the garage. I mean, it's about, I don't say it's the same distance, but it's not, right, a lot longer.
Yeah.
The sign is right at the top of the hill there. That's
Right.
And I think if people leave that sign, they perceive it to be 35. And as you say, it's down there at Joan Buttrick's where they're breaking down the hill. They're just breaking to get down the hill.
Yeah.
So
But the sign for 25 is right here at the top of the hill.
But when you leave the center, which you do after you pass that sign, my contention is that it's perceived to be 35, confirmed when they get to Buttrick's. So they say, oh, this is a 35-mile-an-hour zone.
Yeah, it should always be, when you see a speed limit sign, that's the speed limit.
Till the next
Until
one.
you see the next one.
On the
Right.
west.
You're not perceiving
Right.
behind you it was 25,
Right.
because ahead of you was.
Yeah.
And coming up the hill, I guess I would disagree with Dick, is people need momentum to come up the hill. I mean, if you
Well-
start at the bottom of the hill at 35 or 25, with most of the vehicles we run, you're going pretty slow when you get to the top of the hill. So you do need a little momentum, and you need to be doing 35 or.
Well, that's not a problem, Steve. I don't think that's a problem, people going 35. But people going 45 coming up past our house to get to the hill, and I'm talking about cars and motorcycles. Trucks, not a problem. Emergency vehicles is not a problem. And that's understood, but.
You spoke with the sheriff's department?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really care about having any input. I mean, whatever we decide the speed limit is, and basically because of the elevation change, I think the general idea is they're not gonna write somebody a ticket for going 4 miles over the speed limit. You're coming down a steep hill, you're braking, and then you're coming up a hill and trying to build momentum. So, boy, I don't wanna speak for them. They just didn't wanna speak here tonight. I know they're not interested in writing tickets for somebody doing 27 or 29. And I think, well, you know, I don't remember if I talked about this or not. I don't want to say. I guess I don't say. Marek and I talked for quite a while about different things, and I don't remember specifically what he said. I remember vaguely that we're talking about the speed probably should be faster because people are going faster, but it's always hard to increase the speed limit. But you look at this, and 93% of the vehicles are doing over 25. That's what?
Yeah.
I mean, We all would love to have the speed limit be 20 miles an hour in front of our house. The reality is we have to move traffic
Yeah,
and move
but-
as safely as we can.
I'm not saying that. You know, we can live with 35,
Yeah.
but speed limit at 35 is gonna mean 45. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it'd be hard to stay on the corner.
Well, I took a.
Unless I was on a motorcycle, I could
You
stay on the
know, I
corner.
can verify that with some pictures I took of the speed car, people going past the house if you wanna see them. You know, it's just silly. It's not a big request. All we're asking for is another posting of a sign to remind people that it's 25 through there. I mean, what-
the data is saying, it should be 35 or 30 miles an hour.
Now,
And then maybe when it gets, where the 35-mile-an-hour sign is, that might make sense to put a 25-mile-an-hour sign.
I think if you put two sets of tapes, or put the tapes right across from Will Collins, between Collins's and my house, you get a very different reading on the data from what you have here. I mean,
Because why, Dick?
what's that?
Why?
Because they slingshot out of that curve, they rip down through our place, and then they slow down at Jones where it says 35 to go down the hill. That's what I'm saying. You know, and I'm not being picky here. 35 is okay.
I think we could get better enforcement if the sheriff was
Well,
feeling
has-
that it was reasonable, they were enforcing a reasonable speed limit for that area.
After the cart, it wasn't until the cart was set up, but it was shortly after maybe the last meeting. There was one car down there for 15 minutes, but it was like at 9:30, 10 o'clock, when there's virtually very little traffic. If they're down there in the morning or in the late afternoon, they're likely to see more of this typical behavior.
Yeah.
And have you asked the sheriff's department to come and be there at certain periods? I mean, we talked about that, you know, maybe having them spend a portion of their 12 hours a month,
18 and a half.
18 and a half months, give us a couple of hours, 15 minutes here or there in the Middle Road or the West Village Schoolhouse. I mean, tailor it, as Matt was saying, and ask them to do that, and let's see them there frequently. So then that helps to change the mindset about the speed limit, and maybe makes a difference on how people are traveling the roads.
Now, Mark had told me when I talked to him that he actually sat right in your driveway one day.
He didn't sit in my driveway, he sat in Meg's.
Okay, he must be
Yeah.
confused then.
Yeah, he didn't. I wish he would sit in my driveway, and I wish he'd sit someplace where he could see, you know, where he could be sort of hidden, because I think then, you know, he'd get a true picture. People see a police car and they're going to slow down, and then people say, well, these guys are driving the speed limit. Well, come on.
I mean, the other thing, because this is such, so you have a 25-mile-per-hour zone, and then it goes to 35, and, you know, it sounds like, well, maybe it should be, swapped, is to have the whole stretch out of the down, well, once you get past the bottom of the hill, and then out, once you go through, over the bridge over Salmon Brook, be 30 with an advisory, a speed advisory sign as you get down to the hill, to turn on the Salmon Brook.
What's a speed advisory sign?
It's the yellow signs.
Well,
that
they've
have
got
like
one. It's posted for 25.
Okay.
It's warned for 25.
Right, so then if that's already up there,
Yeah.
it's just something where it's and I totally see what you're saying in terms of just the fact that people are gonna floor it because of the elevation difference, and they're coming up or they're coming down, and there's that little stretch of road that they're gonna try to make up a little time on, and it's comfortable, there's no curves.
It's
On
fun.
the floor.
It's nice to ride a motorcycle. It's fun. You know? I'm just saying it's.
Do you notice it more going down, so east, as opposed to coming up west? In terms of people's speed?
Yeah, in both directions. As I've
In
said,
both directions.
tonight, just before I came up, for some reason it wasn't picking up cars going down, and I don't know if that's because it's solar operated and maybe the sensor going downhill wasn't working, but it was also picking up cars going uphill. And cars traveling uphill invariably were 35, 40 miles an hour going uphill. And coming downhill, all weekend we saw cars coming down, and 35 was an average for a posted limit of 25. I mean, they look at the thing, it said 25, and they're going 35 or 40 miles an hour coming down the hill. I mean, and some of that's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid, But when you say, well, I've been here 45 years, and it's always been 25, and cars have traveled that road since that time and before, and probably without issue, but as cars got faster, people get more aggressive. I mean, I think driving habits have changed. I think we're all driving faster probably than we used to, but that too is a.
Well, I was gonna suggest we make no change in the speed limit. I mean, my perception is that if it's 25, people are gonna think they can go 35, and that's okay, given the data. But if we were to change it to 30, suddenly, 40 seems a reasonable speed, and I don't think we want to make that statement. So I'd like to think that the sheriffs would. I don't know where they're ticketing now, or would they? They probably wouldn't ticket somebody at 35, but they might ticket somebody at 40.
Yeah, I suspect so.
Yeah, where they may be less inclined to ticket at 40 if the speed limit were 30.
I mean, nobody's ever suggested getting a ticket at 27 miles an hour or 29 miles an hour. I mean, that's never been our concern. And I don't know where that comes from, but, that may be the speed of the traffic they're seeing in the middle of the day or at some point when it's not frequently traveled. But I think if they were there during the hours that we notice it, early morning, late afternoon, they'd see a different story.
Does your raw data tell time of day could we get that?
Yeah, I can, I'll send you the file, I'll leave this as well. But to your question about the bi-directional, like if there's more cars traveling faster one way or the other, it's pretty much even in terms of the summary. So it's the 85th percentile is 38 in both directions. So it's not.
Does that pick up two wheels, like motorcycles?
Yep.
What's the highest speed?
I don't have. Yeah, I didn't print out the classification.
Oh.
But I can definitely send that as well.
What's the highest speed you show?
There's 5 a.m., 51 to 55. What's that?
It's a motorcycle.
4 p.m., 51, 55. So there were a total of about 8 cars during the span, August 7th to August 17th. 8 cars were going 51 to 55. 4 cars were going 41 to 45.
You know that they were cars because of the axles?
No, yeah, well, yeah, it's not vehicles.
Vehicles.
So
yeah.
when I say cars right now, it means from a motorcycle to a 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And then just it increases from there.
So Dick, have you made a specific request?
Back in 2010, I made a specific request.
And now what would be your best outcome?
Well, I would be happy if they just took the 25-mile-an-hour sign that's at the top of the hill and moved it down to the base of the hill. That would satisfy me. We don't need another sign if you're willing to do that. There's no rule about moving that sign.
Yeah, but you really want that 25-mile-an-hour
Well,
sign
then
at
have
the
another
top.
sign at the bottom of the hill.
Okay, I'm just wanting to know what your specific request is
Yeah, that's
and
it.
what your best outcome would be.
A sign at the bottom of the hill saying 25 plus tailored surveillance. More frequent, not just for us, but I think on every road where we know there are problems. Back in 2010, I can read from the town plan about how the same issues were raised back then. So it's been a problem in Dummerston for a long time, and it's not just us, but we speak for people on the middle road as well who are concerned about traffic on their road. And I think a lot of people will react to an empty police car sitting on the side of the road. Give us your junk car and put it up here on a temporary basis. People will react to a flashing sign. They'll react to physical presence of people who are monitoring traffic. They won't.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, they won't observe a sign continually, but they will if it's reinforced with monitoring, flashing, speed bumps. But those are things that are harder to do and implement with plowing and all that.
I certainly couldn't entertain speed bumps on the road.
Well, you can, but they have them, that you can put in for the summer.
But I will tell you, the flashing signs in one of the police units that I did talk with, that after a short period of time, people come run to them.
Well, that's why
local
we move
people
them around,
particularly,
yeah.
like the one on, coming out of Brattleboro there,
Right.
that people, local people tend to be
Right.
numb to them, and
Listen,
sometimes people try,
The speed feedback signs.
yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes people try to see how fast they can go.
well, you know,
Yeah, so-
if
But I'm talking about,
So what would you like to see done? Let's cut to the chase and.
well, you have my request back in January, and that was
Right, we're asking you right now,
a sign at the base of the hill
okay?
and more frequent.
25 miles an hour at the base of the hill.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, just so
okay? And what about that 35 mile an hour sign?
you know, that's really irrelevant because people break at that point. So it's not really it's not an issue anymore. And I suggested back in January that what we do is make this 25, give us another sign at the base of the hill, take the 35, and we can do this. I mean, obviously, when speed limits change, they ought to be.
You were starting to say, take the 35 mile an hour sign.
Well, just extend that down to Partridge Road and make that the 35 to the hollow. So extend the 25 from the center to Salmon Brook, Partridge Road. But then we dropped that suggestion because it seemed silly. In thinking about it, people were just braking down the hill. They weren't
Yeah.
going 35, so it didn't make any sense.
Right. Your thought on that?
Well, I just to get back to the radar speed feedback signs, I think you're right in terms of people becoming kind of numb to them. But the success it has been more in the mobility of
right,
it.
the mobile ones.
And the fact that it's it's showing you what exactly you need or how fast you're going at that time.
Yeah.
So if you have a number of roads in town that have been that speed's an issue or are concerned, then it definitely should be something to consider. And you don't want to get the cheap ones either, because
Well,
cheap is cheap, and so.
So what about the, what's your response to another 25 mile an hour sign at the bottom of the hill?
I think it's based again on all the variables that we discussed. That I don't know if people are going to really pay attention to it, because if the data and the land use and everything else shows that people are actually comfortable driving at a certain speed, then to put it up, I don't know.
But the speed limit there is 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, and so if you're coming out and it's 25, and although it's not posted until, it's posted right in the village, right?
Yeah.
On East-West Road. Yeah. So, then that as you get out of the village and you come out of an intersection, go onto a new road, it's posted 25, then that's what is posted until you see the next speed limit sign that then changes it.
I'd like to ask Lee what he thinks.
I agree with Matt. We had an engineer come do our traffic study, tell us where we need our signs, put up the right signs. And this was when we did all the signs on the road.
That's right.
That's right. And, he would have, we don't need signs every 200 feet or 100 yards, it would probably be between them. People will look at them for a little while and then they'll forget about them. I think it's actually, I don't know if it's working for everybody, but the 25 and 35 down through there is working as far as I don't necessarily think we should go from 25 to 35 to 25.
Right, yeah.
I just don't want to get into that. And as a driver, you don't want to get into that either. Seeing signs. I think they're marked fairly well. I do. Even though right at that sign, it's just like I think this traffic data down here at Tom Johnson's where they put the two. That's going to be somewhere right in that 25 or the 35 mile an hour because it's right at the signs. So you tend to you
slow
know.
down after the sign.
Right, exactly, you know, so I think it's gonna be a little high there too.
Do we have a 25-mile-an-hour sign sitting at the highway garage?
Oh, we have all kinds of them. I mean, yeah, but not to be, you know, like, but this could just, yeah.
I'd like.
How many, yeah, I know, and it can get very, if you measured the distance from this 25-mile-an-hour sign to the 35-mile-an-hour sign, and from, on East-West Road, from there up past the garage to that 35-mile-an-hour sign, it's pretty close. I mean, we're not talking a lot of distance. It's just that there's a couple houses in there. The hill. I definitely like the 25 on the top of the hill because that's where we do have the accidents, right on that corner. And it kind of gives people a warning. But
Yeah, I had forgotten, but in terms of what Lee was saying, about 5 years ago, there was a high-risk rural roads assessment done on East-West Road from Route 30 all the way to Route 5. And that included an extensive sign package that was oversaw by V-Trans. And it's a situation where they're going by what the federal standards are for sign placement and sign, what sign should be where. It's called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD. So, you know, you want to put as many signs as need be, but you don't want to have a situation where, like Lee was saying, having signs just inconsistently placed, where people might not pay attention to them.
May I say something?
Wait, let me just.
Well, I'd like to respond.
Let me just see. Anybody? Reactions, thoughts? No? Okay, Mr. Burgess.
Well, going back to what Lee was saying, I didn't understand what you were saying by going from 25 to 35 to 25. Because it is 25 until you get to Buttricks, it's 35. Till you get to the Hollow, it's 25. But so what we were saying originally was to move that 35 to the other side by Partridge Road through Salmon Brook turns. And make this 25 from the center all the way down to Salmon Brook to Partridge Road. That would be less confusing.
yeah, but then you'd have a quarter of a mile of 35, and then you'd go right back to 25 because the hollow's 25.
Exactly. But what you have now is people at the 35 are braking downhill to Salmon Brook, which is silly.
Yeah,
Nobody's going 35 down that hill into a 25-mile-an-hour turn, which is
Correct.
actually posted for 2.
Correct.
That should be posted for 20, or warned for 20 because it's such a sharp turn through a narrow bridge, which I guess you guys are going to work on. But the other point is that in this, not very good point, but something you said, Matt. It was Marcos Miller.
Yep.
And at the time, because I was part of that group, and we went all around the town and did this re-signing, but we didn't talk about, we didn't have data on that stretch of road. Maybe it wasn't a problem at the time. But over time, we're seeing a lot faster traffic there than maybe we did before. But we also know that the perception going this way, going west and going south, is that it's 35, because it is marked for 35, and that applies to this stretch down to the east. And I think it's part of the problem. And we're not just talking about changing the sign, we're talking about reinforcing the sign with surveillance, periodic and frequent surveillance. We don't have anything else to turn to. We don't have cameras. You could probably live with all kinds of speed if they're paying for it. Wouldn't bother me a bit. And if you'd had a patrol car down here on the weekend, you could have balanced your budget easily.
I don't disagree.
Welcome to Dummerston.
Our budget is balanced.
Yeah, this is a town government.
Well, I'd like to bring this matter to a conclusion, and, Dick has been before us a number of times, and, quite honestly, I haven't heard any compelling reasons not to have a sign, at the bottom of the hill. I mean, if we put one in there, we could always take it out. So I'm actually gonna move that we have a 25-mile-an-hour sign installed at the bottom of the hill. And maybe it'll fail for a lack of a second, but we've kicked this one around pretty good in my estimation.
Mhm.
I guess I'd second it. It would be certainly worth trying.
Okay, then discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 3-2.
All right. Thank you.
Just remember it when the next person
I know,
comes.
yeah, I know.
That's all I can say, because
I know, because I want
that's
one in
all
my
I,
house
that's
too.
all I want to say.
I want one.
I know.
We've got it.
Yeah.
And to say with the traffic count, we do have a counter on Rice Farm Road. Right?
Yes, great.
Per
Good.
request.
So do you mind if I take this, because it might help
Yeah,
me
go
when I
ahead.
talk to
Yeah.
shifts.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
and you guys,
And that will you email it to us?
yeah, I'll email you that along with the volume and the classification.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just email you and Jonesy as well.
So do you guys mind where it is? So I don't put it up in the wrong
No, don't
spot?
put it out.
I'm gonna put it in front of the telephone pole, so every time the telephone pole gets hit, the sign gets hit.
Then the sign will be gone.
I'd like to make sure that it's in a place that Dick feels,
All right.
would serve the purpose that he's concerned about.
Someplace, where the woodlot is there, just between the field on the curve and
Yeah.
our house.
Yeah.
And I was thinking opposite Will Collins, maybe right there, just as a,
Okay.
because there's an access road to the
Yeah,
field, so
yeah.
just beyond that would be fine.
And
Yeah.
just so I understand, this is
Yeah.
only on the downhill side, not both directions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's needed on the uphill side.
That's what I thought Joe's motion was.
Yeah.
But
correct.
can I just say,
Just-
if you asked me what I would wish, and thank you for your support on this, but also tailoring the patrol of this, I look at the police reports, and it's hard for me to say where these guys are giving these tickets. So you don't really know where the surveillance or the traffic's being slowed down. I mean, it says, well, they gave 10 tickets and it was this much money, but you don't really know, was it here, there, down here? And it would be nice to know that. And if you're gonna tailor and ask for tailoring of some surveillance on the middle road, somewhere on the east-west road going west, or on our road, or in the village, because I think they have issues as well. And then annotate that and say, okay, no tickets or no warnings or whatever it turns out to be. It would help, I think, seeing how effective that surveillance is.
So Matt, I have a question for you. So there was a statement made that when you see a sign 25 miles per hour, you can assume that the speed limit is 25 until you see the next sign.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
accurate?
Yep.
So when you're coming the other direction and you see the 35-mile-an-hour zone, is it 35 until you see the 25?
Correct.
So it's a different speed zone going west than going east between the 25 and the 35-mile-an-hour signs?
Is there a
How does that
25 mile per hour post
Let Matt answer.
on the west? Is there a 25 mile per hour
I'm
post?
trying to.
I thought there was.
Yeah,
If
right.
you're coming
I
west.
think it is.
Yeah, I mean, technically, what you should do is when the speed limit, the posted speed limit signs should be parallel with one another.
Right.
So this is 25 here, on the other side of the road coming this way should be 25, and then if you know what
No,
I mean?
it's 35.
So like, well, not here, but like anywhere where if there's a change in speed limit, then that change should happen at the same
Concurrently, yeah.
concurrently with across the road from each other, not like, okay, here's 25, here's 25, and here's 35. It should happen
So for every speed limit sign, there should be one going the other way as well?
If there's a change,
If there's a change.
Yeah. yeah, if there's a change. So like for this one, like the new one that's gonna go in, you,
It's fine, because
It's
it's in
fine,
that
because it's
25
in the-
mile an hour
right.
zone.
correct.
But how do you know when that 25 mile an hour zone starts when you're coming west?
There is a sign
There is-
right
it's
by Ann
posted.
Montgomery, above Ann Montgomery.
There is,
Yeah.
okay.
25, I
Okay.
think.
There's a warning sign at Ann's, and then right opposite the
Okay.
35 at Buttrick's is a 25 going west.
Going west,
Right.
okay, great, that was my question, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Matt, can you take this?
Oh,
Thanks, Dick.
oh, great, thank you.
Okay, let's see. So, discussion in November, we have a couple of meetings. One, our next meeting would be on November 11th. No, sorry. 2 meetings from now would be November 11th, which is Veterans Day. And then the meeting after that would be the 25th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. So, this was brought to my attention, and I just wanted to run it past you and see if you want to make any adjustments in the schedule for meetings.
So say again when our meetings are supposed to be scheduled?
Okay, we have
November?
a meeting October 28th,
Uh-huh.
and then the following meeting would be November 11th,
I see.
which as I look at the wall,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
a red 11 there.
Well, when we had I hadn't really thought about the meeting of the 4th, is really in effect an extra meeting. It would be nice if we
Because
could
we have
do
the
that.
hearing, we have the hearing
Yeah,
tonight
it
at
would be
5.
nice if we could have a select board meeting. What if we had select board meetings on the 4th and the 18th?
Then you can't do payroll. You can't unless you
Yeah.
authorize somebody to
Do the payroll,
do payroll and accounts payable.
right.
And the other thing about the 18th is you need to start thinking about when you're gonna start budget meetings.
Mhm. Right. So,
So what are the other options?
having it, the 10th or 12th for November, or having it Tuesday the 24th, or just saying, oh, my dance card's free for that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so we'll just go ahead and have it then.
We're around the 25th. How about the rest of you?
I am.
I'd prefer not to meet on the 25th, but
Okay, I think
The other thing is also payroll, because we would need to be able to give employees their checks on the 25th,
yeah.
because the
So
next 2 days are holidays.
if you were
If I were,
sitting at the table here, what would
The emperor?
what would you like to see?
I would like to see the board meet on the 24th, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And as far as the week of the 11th, the 10th, I would prefer that because the Conservation Commission meets here on the
Yeah.
12th.
Okay,
But that's my vote, which I don't
and
have.
the planning commission doesn't have, does the planning commission have meetings those?
They meet on the 3rd, the first Tuesday.
Okay.
Is there a problem with the 11th?
Well, just that you just voted to make it a
Holiday.
employee holiday. So I
That's
will
right.
be here.
Okay.
I can meet on the 10th.
Me too.
I can meet on the 10th.
Yep.
What say?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we good for the 10th?
And the
All right.
24th is,
24th, I'll be out of town that whole week and actually the week before, so.
So you
Don't
won't
do
be
it
here
around
for
me.
the 25th either?
No.
Okay, so 24th work for you?
Yep.
Okay, work. All right, so let's meet on the 24th.
So we meet on Tuesdays in November.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, get into that presidential election.
And can you say something about budget meetings? So do they start in
Yes,
December?
we generally, I say we, but it's actually Lori sends out a request or a notice to all the different boards and commissions and highway foremen that budget season is approaching, and we give them a time when we'd like to see their budgets for the coming year. And then we'll start meeting and putting together a budget. What's the usual, what's the
Historically,
historic precedence here?
I think it's historically right about now that I send that out,
Ah, okay.
so,
I think, don't we usually have our first budget meeting like the end of October, don't we?
I think it's usually November,
Is it November?
yeah,
Yeah, somewhere around that,
like the 18th.
yeah.
And so budget meetings are different than select board meetings?
Yes, we all bring sharp pencils and our calculators.
And we try to limit Zeke to about an hour and a half.
So we try to limit Lee to, he pads the sand budget every year, Okay, well, let's do what we usually do, as far as notifying,
Okay, so I'll try to do that tomorrow.
okay, and we'll start meeting on the budget when we historically usually
Okay,
do.
and speaking of meetings, I just need to remind you of the hazard mitigation plan meeting,
Oh, God.
the mandatory one from the regional. It's gonna be on Thursday, the 19th,
The 19th.
Oh.
boy.
6 to 8, and you won't be here, right?
The 19th of
November.
November. Correct, I won't be here.
Hmm.
Okay.
Is it too late to book a flight with you?
I'm driving, there's extra room in the car.
I don't take up much room. All right. Well, okay, so it looks like we'll have a busy November. Right, that's why we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah. Because we'll probably have a budget meeting that week too.
Yes, once we start working on the budget, then we often meet. Does it just seem in my memory that we meet every week, or?
Yeah, it's every week.
It does seem that way.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Well, okay,
Really, Gerald?
so.
Yeah.
That's fine, I just like to, so are they on Wednesdays?
Yes.
So you
yes.
just meet every Wednesday?
Yes.
And one meeting will be a filmed select board meeting, and
Yes.
the next meeting will
We'll
be
be
a,
devoted to just
just a work
a work
session
session on the budget.
that's not filmed, it's not a
No,
regular
no,
meeting.
No, no.
We
it's-
still
it's-
can sometimes discuss the budget at our regular meeting
Yeah,
too, depending on how.
we sometimes take, yes, time in
Depending
our
on
regular budget
agenda.
meeting, a regular select board meeting to go over a portion of the budget.
So I,
The off meetings that we have is casual dress.
I would like to suggest, don't jump up and down. I'd like to suggest that on the 4th, when we have to meet for the public hearing at 5, that maybe you consider that being our first budget meeting. I don't know.
I think that's a good idea. We're gonna be here anyway.
Just because
Sure.
then the next week we meet on Tuesday, and then the last 2 weeks of November, I'm not even here.
Okay,
And this will be
fine.
my first time looking at the budget
Yes,
and all of
okay.
that, so.
And we'll probably have a work session the 18th.
Right, and
And
because
the 24th.
Yeah,
it would,
okay,
And don't forget the November 4th hearing is over at the community center.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
But basically, that first meeting would be sort of you giving us
Yeah.
all our package information.
Yeah.
It's all work for you anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
No problem.
good.
that's okay.
That's
Okay.
fine, great
I
idea.
mean, I'd be happy to then come over here for the budget meeting if it's a problem for
Oh,
you
no,
being
no, it's
at
no
the community
problem.
center.
No.
Okay, all right.
Okay, great.
So,
Well, what else do we have here? So, taking care of our November meetings, and we're getting the budget process underway. Under other business, I don't have anything. Anyone have any other business?
Is this where we could move to go into executive session to discuss an employee
I think so,
matter?
yeah.
and I move we go into executive session to discuss an employee matter.
I'll second that.
Okay, for discussion, I'll just say that I think this makes a year and a quarter since we last had our last executive session. So, let the records,
Reflect that.
yes, yes. May other towns try to beat that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Will you have any decisions?
No,
No.